So, and essentially, as she said, she came to the support group because she thought, well, maybe she was losing her mind too. Well, she wasn't. She was just enormously stressed. So, remember, what are we saying? We're saying it is not the circumstance, but the perception of the circumstance that really makes the difference in terms of stress response. So, what if instead of reaching for our go-to snack like a piece of pastry or right, ginger ale. Ginger ale is fine in moderation, but we know that sugar is not an antidote. It isn't good for us. Sugar creates a lot of its own problems, and hey, I'm a sugar addict, so I know whereof I speak. But sugar just increases people who struggle with anxiety. Sugar does not help. Depression, sugar does not help. All of those things. But those are the ways that we try to medicate ourselves against stress. What if we were to do something different? What if we were to be able to stop and notice what is going on with us? You know, there's a theory that I believe that all of our emotions start with our body. They're all body-based. When you're an infant, you don't know that you're hungry or tired. You feel the hunger. The hunger is, you know, the ache in the stomach. That's when you've been breastfed. You know that you're no longer hungry. You feel this relaxation in your internal organs. This is how it all begins for us. We learn what we're feeling based on what our body is telling us. But guess what happens as we grow? We become increasingly out of touch with our body until we have a heart attack, or until we have such terrible pain in our shoulders and our neck that we're running to a chiropractor, or who knows what. You all know what can happen when we lose touch. Now, it doesn't mean there are things that are beyond our control. You may be the only one in your family who can take care of your loved one. There's no way to avoid that. But there are ways to minimize or avoid the breakdown that occurs in taking care of yourself as you're taking care of somebody else. And that's basically what is my Bible. You know, when my mother was increasingly demented and anxious, I would take her into the room in which I sit and meditate, and she'd be all agitated and fluttery and whatever, and I would just sit down and I'd ring my little bell, which for me is the start of a half-hour or 45-minute meditation. And I am not talking about religion here. I am talking about a very secular approach, which is about observing what is going on with me, okay? So what we're talking about here has a term, and it's called mindfulness. And basically what mindfulness means is knowing what you are doing as you are doing it. So it's present moment awareness with compassion, very important, not with self-blame. So I would sit down. My mother would be, you know, running around, fluttery, agitated. I'd ring my bell, and I would sit there, and within maybe, at the most, within 5-6 minutes, my mother was sitting down in a chair near me for the next half hour to 45 minutes, as long as I sat. My mother couldn't meditate. She didn't have a mind left to do that. But it was, I believe, the quiet, my intention, the idea that it's not that I wasn't paying attention to her, but things just settled down in the room. And my mother settled down in the room. And it wasn't that she was learning to observe her thoughts and see what was happening in her body, but there was some magic there. And I think it was that this was transferred from me to her, a state of curiosity, attention, trying to tune in to what my experience was at that moment in an interested and non-judgmental way. And that did not mean that I didn't feel agitated, angry, tired, all of those other things. But I was recognizing what I was feeling, not running away from it, and trying to deal with it in a way of saying, hello, hello anger, hello tiredness, where are you? Where do I feel you in my body? What's going on here? Nothing to be done about it. I don't need to yell. I don't need to go to sleep, even as much as I would want to at times. I just need to recognize what is true for me. And I've been teaching this approach, mindfulness-based stress reduction, to caregivers for the last 10 years. And I can tell you that it has made a difference in their lives as it made a difference in mine, and as it continues to. I am currently not taking care of anyone, but always struggling to take care of myself. Those are things that don't just go away when your care recipient dies. It's a journey. It's a lifelong journey in a time that is basically characterized by enormous stress. So let's look at what really comes down to how we deal with stress in our lives. First, we've got to recognize it. If we don't recognize it, we're lost. You all know that term, automatic pilot. Okay, well, that's the opposite of mindfulness, right? It's mindlessness. But how much of our lives are spent on automatic pilot? A lot. 90%, yeah. That's actually a fairly low estimate. When we're not sleeping, how many times do you end up, do you sometimes realize you've driven to work or you've driven to somebody's house and you think, oh my gosh, I don't even remember how I got here, right? Or going through your daily activities with a sense, sort of like being an automaton. Well, we do a great deal of our lives that way. And what mindful perception is all about is about recognizing what's going on. Remember what's happening, knowing what we're doing as we're doing it. Because I can tell you, if you can recognize that you're tight, that you're tired, that you're feeling stress, that your belly is agitated, you have the opportunity at that time to do something about it.